I can get,
I don't think,
if I can get your attention,
here, George, let me pull that up.
just a minute, he's
You can
gonna
do that
Please.
line down there.
Did you test them all? Okay.
If I can get your attention. If I can get everybody's attention, we'll quiet the room down. We're going to stream live, so as soon as he turns this on, everything and anything is going to be heard. So we are on. We will open the meeting at 7:02, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please. Here.
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 I'd make a motion to excuse Mark Freeman.
Support.
There's a motion to excuse Mark Freeman by Winchester, support by Burton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Winchester, support by Burton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, before I address public comment, let me just say two things. You'll notice the agenda says Holly Township Notice of Special Meeting. Then further down, the language says Board of Trustees regular meeting. It is not a regular meeting, it is a special meeting. So I wanted to clear that up. Under public comment, members of the public can address the board on agenda items only, once recognized by the supervisor. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. The board may extend this time by a majority vote. Prior to addressing the board, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. A second public comment is available after the new business for all other comments. Thank you for your cooperation. Is there anyone that's interested in public comment at this time? Nobody? All right, then we will go right to new business. Under new business is NACFA and all related business. I called this special meeting tonight to discuss the situation with the NACFA board, things that are going on the NACFA board with the Holly Township board. Holly Township is a member of the authority along with Rose Township, and we share the authority. The authority has two members from this board, myself and Clerk Winchester, and Rose Township has two members. They have their supervisor and their treasurer. And then there is a citizen at large, Peter Stauffer. The board meets they meet tomorrow. They meet on Tuesday right now at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The NACFA board is meant to deal with the affairs of the fire department. And we go to that meeting, we discuss the issues. If they're major issues, the board votes on them, and those issues go back to the townships to be ratified. Over the last 3 years, we've had a problem getting that done. I have made the comment in more than one meeting that I felt Rose Township was running the board. So tonight I want to take an opportunity to explain what I meant by that. And I've got some documentation here. For those of you that have not been watching the NACFA meetings and are just trying to catch up, perhaps here for the first time, there is a timeline of some of the things that have gone on. It's right here. I have copies on the table. You may feel free to pick them up. They start out back in 2019. They go up to current time. You can read the excerpts which come from the NACFA board minutes, and the meetings are on YouTube, so you can go back to them and watch the actual conversation, but all of that information is here. There are a couple of issues that I wanted to address. Let me get to my notes here. In regards to the power of the board, I said before that the board was supposed to discuss matters, make decisions, and then send them back to the board. On the meeting of May 13th, 2020, the NACFA board, or Rose Township board meeting, they discussed the Oakland County Fire Authority budget. Nope, that's not the one I want. I apologize. Here's where I want. On December 17th, 2019, at a NACFA board meeting, on the agenda was the NACFA Taxing Authority. It was moved by Schneib-Sider, seconded by Gamka, to postpone the discussion of NACFA Taxing Authority due to the discussions with Groveland Township. That was December 19th of 2019. On January 8th of 2020, at a Rose Township Board of Trustees meeting, under unfinished business, they had the NACFA Taxing Authority. Now, it's important to understand that that authority hadn't been discussed by the NACFA board. It was put on hold. At that meeting, they made a motion not to support NACFA as a taxing authority and to continue to split the cost equally among the participating municipalities as done in the past. That motion carried on their board meeting. We went from December to January 8th, and then at January 21st NACFA meeting, the motion was made by Diane Scheib-Snyder not to approve NACFA as a taxing authority. Now you have to understand it hadn't even been discussed at that level. It was seconded by Paul Gamka, and it passed 3-2. So that was the first time that the Rose Township Board usurped the power of the NACFA board to discuss a topic. Now, one of the other issues that has come up with the board is we've found ourselves now with the firefighters went out and unionized. Well, the question is, why did they do that? And you can go back to the meeting where that was announced, where Paul Gamka actually scolds them for doing so. Well, they said, if anybody read the article in the paper, they had to unionize to get a voice. The NACFA firefighters wanted to discuss their pension plan, and they brought that to the board. Again, the board, in a 3-2 vote, led by that time Paul Gamka, said, we're not discussing this, we're not looking at pensions, we're not doing anything. This was a discussion. That's the board's job. You've got to listen to your employees. They want to talk about their pension. Doesn't mean you have to pass it, doesn't mean you have to do anything. But they should be allowed to have a voice. That voice was taken away again in a 3-2 vote. Now, and it was on township lines. There's a timeline that was put out. I saw it on social media. From 2005 until March of 2019, that's a 14-year span, there were a total of 3-2 votes by that board. From March of 2019 up until the most current meeting, we've had a total of 28 3-2 votes on township lines. Those things can be found in the documents I brought here from the meetings. We've had our suspicions as we've gone through this process that between the taxing authority, between the lack of allowing the department to discuss their pensions, at the most recent meeting, the Firefighters Association wanted to make a presentation. Again, that was denied at that meeting by a 3-2 vote. Mr. Stauffer raised the concern that they were going to file a complaint about somebody on the board, and in his words, he said, "I'm protecting the board." Again, that went down in a 3-2 vote. It's my opinion, it's the opinion of both of us, you have to let your employees talk. but they were again denied. Well, they turned around in public comment and had their say. Again, they formed a union. Why? Because they wanted a voice. When we went through budget negotiations in May of 2021, the NACFA board discussed for 2 meetings the entire budget that was presented by the chief. Now, it's important to understand that the chief runs the department. The board is there for guidance. He brings the budget to the board. We discuss the board based on the taxes that are collected, based on what the community can afford, and the budget, there are questions answered, and the budget gets approved. It was approved 5-0. Rose Township went back to their board, and the budget got denied. Paul Gamka said that he had a $350,000 shortfall that he didn't realize. They came back to our board, they had turned the budget down, and they began to cut the budget. In that meeting, I stopped them and I said, wait a minute. The issue is, what can you afford? What do we need to look at for a budget? And then we turned to the chief and asked him, where do you want to cut your budget to meet that bid? Well, Rose Township was more interested in cutting the hourly wages of the department to get it down to where they wanted it. Now, in their meetings, they have made the comment that the chief has raised the budget exponentially over the last several years. What's important to understand is that in these budget talks, we are all aware of the raises. We are aware of the grants that came in. We had a SAFER grant for over $500,000 that paid for a new employee. When that grant was accepted, when that grant was applied for, we all understood that at the end of that grant, we would have to pick up the salary for the new employee. And Diane Scheib-Snyder pushed to have a full-time employee added to the roster in Station 3, and Holliet Township agreed with that. We agreed with it because it made sense for the department. It put 2 people in the station, and that was something we had grown the department to handle. Well, when they went back and disallowed that budget, that's when the union was formed. They felt they no longer had the ability to have a voice. If you go back and watch those meetings, you can see it all play out there. Now, the other thing that happened regarding the taxing authority was in February of 2020, they brought up again the taxing authority topic, and Paul Gamka brought a set of numbers to the Rose Township Board, and it writes right in here, it says, at the example rate of 3.5 mils, Rose Township would pay over $245 more than Holly Township for shared services. And he has a set of numbers. The taxes are based on the property values for each township. And in his example, he shows Rose Township with $271 million in assessed value and Holly Township at 201. Well, it's very important that you compare apples to apples when you're doing this. Rose Township has a millage, and it's my understanding that that millage is collected on both the real property tax and the personal property tax as a combination. I talked with Oakland County Assessing I met with them for over an hour today. Holly Township has a special assessment district. In that special assessment district, it only goes against property values. So we have a different way of collecting the tax. The taxing authority, while you want to sit here and say, we'll pay more than Holly Township, we all know that numbers can tell you, and they can say whatever we want them to say. In a taxing authority, every property owner would be taxed exactly the same at 1 millage rate. If your property was worth more, your taxes would be more. If your property was less, they would be less. Now, if we want to talk numbers, that is something that should have happened in the board meeting at NACFA. And some of that conversation could have gone like this. I talked to Oakland County and I got these numbers. Rose Township has 55.5% of the dwellings in the fire authority. while Holly Township has 44.5. So Rose Township has more buildings, Holly has less buildings. That makes sense because we have less value than Rose Township. Another way you could look at it is Holly Township has the same number of calls as Rose Township, which is equal. Well, here's an interesting fact that didn't have an opportunity to come to the service. Most of the calls for the fire department are around traffic accidents. The busiest traffic accident area is I-75 in Holly Township. The second busiest traffic area is North Belford Road, or is North Holly Road at Belford. The third is Grange Hall at Fish Lake Road. Then the fourth is Hickory Ridge and Fenton Road. Now, why do I bring those up? Well, the fire department gets revenue from those calls because they're able to bill on those. So you have more calls in Holly Township bringing in revenue than in Rose. And I only bring it up because, as I said, numbers play an important part in this. But the part that is missed when you don't allow the board to have the conversation is all of the numbers. The other part that gets negated is the fact that a taxing authority taxes every resident within the fire district at the same rate. It's the same thing your schools do, but we don't see the townships discussing who has more students, whose students are getting better education, which elementary school's better. It's a school district-wide millage, and it's covered by everybody within that district. So those are some of the things I wanted to point out as we went into this. Everything I've said, we have documentation for. The numbers are here. You can see them. On the May 18th regular meeting, which was done by Zoom, that is the meeting where you'll find the discussion that starts on the budget for this year. I'm looking for a document I had here. I tried to figure out how I could bring everybody up to speed for 3 years worth of stuff in a short meeting without losing their attention. This is the paper I'm looking for here. Another reason why the firemen decided to form a union, after that budget was backed up and lowered, and those numbers were there because Rose Township had a shortfall. And let's understand, if the money's not there, the money's not there. You can't do that. Rose Township currently assesses 2.1 mills to cover their fire department, and they make up the shortfall out of their general fund. Holly Township at that time was charging 3.5 mills against our assessed values. In the very next meeting, or not the very next meeting, but in the August 11th meeting at Rose Township, there was a motion by Trustee Noble to allow the treasurer to transfer $1 million plus or minus from the Wells Fargo Bank to Morgan Stanley. This was supposedly excess money in the fund balance. That sent a message to the firemen that shortfall you said you had doesn't exist. It was another reason why they went to do that. This is an excerpt from those minutes that are there. So I called this meeting for the Holly Township Board so that we could discuss what we do going forward, because right now we are a member of an authority. We virtually have no power by the way the votes have gone. In that authority, the only option we have to stop this, we can't file an injunction. In the meeting at Rose Township, it was made very clear that their intention is to get rid of the fire chief. That's a very large concern to us for a couple of reasons. But our board's in charge of business, so I don't want to make it emotional. I want to stick with business. You have a fire chief that has been with the department for 25 years. He has had 14 years of annual reviews of 93% or higher. In the last 3 years, that rate has dropped to 80% because of the reviews coming from the Rose Township side of the board. If Rose Township decides to let this chief go or fire the chief with no cause, that's going to end up in a lawsuit. The Village of Holly did that 10 years ago, and they wrote a check for just under $400,000 when that got done. Holly Township and Rose Township and Nakfa cannot afford this, and it's ridiculous. There's no reason for it. There haven't been any letters that say, here's what needs to change, here's what needs to fix, here's what you're doing wrong. This appears to be a personal vendetta. And in that meeting last Thursday night, it came to surface, and that's what it looked like. I know I asked the members of this board to watch that meeting to see that. We have really a couple of options. We can make some recommendations to send to the Rose Township Board about our concerns. We can add it to the vote of confidence by the Firefighters Authority. We can have that same vote. We can make the suggestion, I actually made this suggestion in a board meeting a few months back, that maybe what needs to happen is that the current board needs to step down. That would mean a resignation by all 5 board members. The supervisor from Rose Township and myself would then appoint 2 new board members from the 3 remaining members on each board. Those new members would then pick a new citizen at large to replace the current citizen at large. At the same time, I would recommend that the board pick up the recommendations from the attorney, Mr. Laddie, who has resigned. Mr. Laddie had written 3 opinions, all of which were ignored by the board, and the board voted 3-2 to go a different direction. After that, he stepped down. In a simple 1 sentence, I resigned. I called him and I asked him why. And he said that there was no point in being your attorney if you're not going to take my advice. I asked him if he would come to the board and talk about that. He said that no, it wouldn't be professional. He would just rather end it here. But there's a pattern going on. And the voters, you people, the citizens, yes, we're citizens of the community as well, but you citizens voted and you gave us the power to make these decisions. It's the same citizens that gave that power that can take it away. We don't have that power up here when we're in a predicament like this. So our choice is, I mentioned the choices we can add on. We can also choose to dissolve the authority. I don't think anybody wants to see that happen. But at some point you have to ask yourself, do we sit here and just watch this go down the tubes? Or do we take action to change something? If this board were to vote to resolve the authority, there is a 45-day cooling down period where something hopefully could be changed. I have been inundated by phone calls and emails and people in my office today. They were all Rose Township residents asking us not to go forward with abolishing or dissolving the authority. I do want to read one email from a resident in Rose Township because he asked me to read it in the meeting. Give me a second while I find it here. It's yours? Well, then why don't you come up and read it? No, we need to read this one right now. This is Mr. Dan Johnson.
My name is Dan Johnson. I live at 8635 Tipsco Trail, Holly, Michigan, Rose Township. Okay. I understand that the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the withdrawing from NACFA. Many Rose Township residents assume that our elected officials were representing us with honesty and integrity and have just become aware of their actions both on the NACFA board and on our own Rose Township board. Many of us are in agreement with the NACFA firefighters in regard to their vote of no confidence regarding Mr. Stouffer. We are also looking at the actions of our own Rose Township officials and how to best address them. I would like to ask you to delay your vote for a month or two so that we can address these problems. If you leave NACFA, it will be disbanded and both townships will suffer from a lack of service, extended response times, increased costs, and increased taxes. So I'd like to ask you, please hold off on your vote for a little bit. Thank you.
The sentiments in this email were echoed by all of the other emails I got this morning from Rose Township residents. They were also echoed by the text that I received from Chet Coop, who is on vacation. He's a former Rose Township supervisor. They were also echoed by the phone calls by the people that stopped in my office. So I'm trying to be completely, totally transparent in the conversation that we have, in the concerns that we have, and I'm trying to help those that have come late to this story to have the ability to catch up. That's why we printed the document that you see over here, and you're welcome to come up tonight and take those home with you, read over them. The business at hand for this board is to discuss the directions and where we go. I will tell you this, that Clerk Winchester and myself have had a couple of conversations over on Friday with the Holly Township attorney regarding the situation, and we can't file a lawsuit, we can't file an injunction to stop anything. Any 3-2 vote is, as Peter Stauffer likes to say, a vote of the board. So, unfortunately, when the authority was put together, it was put together by well-intended people, and nobody sat there and said, wait a minute, what about worst case scenario? Nobody put in stopgaps to protect. The citizen at large has no end to its term. It's equal to that of a Supreme Court justice. It's an appointment for life. And nobody can remove them. There is no conflict resolution within these articles. Somebody asked me today, they said, end result, if you had to resolve the authority, then what? I said, well, then Rose Township would be responsible for their own fire department. Holly Township would be responsible for their own fire department. The assets would be divided equally, and each would go their own way. The value of an authority in this region of the county, North Oakland County Fire Authority, we are very densely populated, and we have low property values township-wide, 270 million, those are big numbers to the average everyday citizen. But when you compare them to other townships that have 4 billion, 2 billion, they're collecting more tax revenue. I saw an ad the other day, Waterford Township is asking their voters to go from 1.25 mils to 1.5 mils. How can you run a department like that? Well, it's easy when you have $8 billion in value because you're collecting a whole lot more money. I sit in meetings on a monthly basis, Oakland County Association of Township Supervisors, and I was sitting next to Leo Savoy, the township supervisor from Bloomfield Township one day, and he voiced his concern over some legislative action that was taken in Lansing, and he said it's going to leave us with a $6 million budget. Both Holly Township, Rose Township, and Groveland Township, we have budgets that are right at $1 million, $1.2 million, but pretty close. I turned to Leo, if you've got a $6 million deficit, I said, how much is your budget? And he said, right around 43 million. And yet we're both township supervisors. What we deal with on a daily basis is very different. And it's important to understand that because in this region, North Oakland County Fire Authority, when it was established, the thought was it would serve the 4 townships, Rose, Holly, Groveland, and Springfield. If you look at those 4 townships, we don't have an accumulated assessed value to equal Orion or Independence townships. If you look at those 4 townships and you take a total of their populations, we're just under 40,000 people. Independence Township and Orion Township have 38,000 people. That's why I keep using those townships. It compares to what we have in 4 townships. The other thing that's important to understand is when there comes a fire call, NACFA's not the only one that shows up. We get Groveland, we get Village of Holly, we get Springfield. Why? Because we don't have the staff to handle a full-fledged call. We need that. There's a term that the fire department uses, but it's mutual aid. And we need it from the other departments. And many of these people that give up their time and risk their life to deal with these calls, they work for both departments. I know we've got some people in the room tonight that are here with a couple of departments. So a taxing authority for this region, for the citizenry, for our livelihood, is the way to go. We've got to get the individual egos and emotion out of it and do what's best for the taxpayer. But right now, that's not what's happening on this NACFA board. So I've talked long enough. I'll turn this over to the rest of my board. Karen, if you'd like to add anything, she's the other representative on the NACFA board.
I think you did good. Thank you.
But we need to hear from this board as to what you think. If you have any questions, feel free to ask those. While we may have some of the answers, if we don't have them all, we'll get them.
Okay. So the only thing I have, is looking at these documents, I don't really feel that pulling out at any cases will be the right situation, especially given this time. This special assessment runs till June 30th. So we've paid for services up till June 30th at this point. So I don't think that, getting out of this would be, at least for now, at the right time. Although this isn't done on a monthly basis, if you take that number divided by 12, it'd be leaving $212,645 out there. So I'm not in favor of exiting. And not only that, the withdrawing, basically what we'd be doing then is, we'd be withdrawing, leaving this amount on the table, having to form your own, which is taking more money, and then we would have to buy back all the assets that we've already paid for as taxpayers. So I think at this point, that is not an option in my opinion.
I don't understand that. You withdrawing from the municipality?
From NACFA.
Okay, but if we want to withdraw as Holly Township, we can do that.
Well, that
You're
is
still
what I'm
liable for
referring
everything.
to, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, the one difference is, in reference to what you said, we would have to buy it back. That was true when you had 3 members, if one member left. In the case where we would pull out, that would actually dissolve the authority. Then you would just divide the assets.
Okay.
And it's a 2-year
And
process.
it's a 2-year process to
It
understand.
would be a
But
drastic
if we just
measure, but
withdraw as a township, we're still liable for everything. What would be wrong with that?
Well,
I mean,
that's why I
it's-
say there's a process to
Right.
go through.
And we'd be paying all the debts and liabilities as far as I'm
Well,
aware as
your
well.
portion of it.
Yeah, right.
Right,
50%.
which we pay anyway.
Yeah, and we've paid, like I said, we've already paid for services up till June 30th at this point. So I would like to see us at least get those services till June 30th.
Right, but we still only have to pay for whatever we would normally pay anyway. Is that correct or not?
So basically what I'm looking at is the special assessment that was given twice. We've paid that special assessment
Right.
to cover the fiscal year of July 1st to June 30th. So pulling out now would then mean we left April, May, and June dollars out there.
No, because
it would
we
be
wouldn't
2
leave the
years.
authority. It takes 2 years.
Okay.
The money we're collecting for taxes this year would pay for the 22-23 budget.
Okay.
You have to go along that budget line.
Okay. And that is withdrawal, not dissolving. So I see
Right.
the word difference.
Right. Correct.
Well, but by virtue of,
withdrawal.
when there's only 2 members, by virtue of one withdrawing, it's dissolved. because there's nothing left.
Okay, so there's no, okay. I didn't know if there had to be agreement on both sides
Yeah.
for it to count as a
No.
dissolution.
So,
It would be a drastic measure to do that, but something
Right.
has to change
Mm-hmm.
drastically.
but I
We
felt
can't-
that we had to discuss this. I felt that we had to bring attention to this. The public needed to understand what's going on with the events that happened at Rose Township's meeting last week and tonight. My hope is that the public gets better educated as to what's happening and what's going on. Because we don't have the power ourselves to stop any of it. We're there for the ride. You'll watch one of the meetings where we were trying to work a compromise, and I was trying to amend a motion, and Mr. Stauffer got caught up on the language, and we took quite a few minutes to discuss exactly how we would get the amendment on there, and we thought we were actually making a difference. We finally got it all through, and then they voted 3-2 no. And I raised the question, why did you just waste our time? And he said, well, we have to have respect for the democratic process. Well, there was no process. It was more like a dog and pony show. And I just said at that point, I said, then just tell us what we're doing, because we keep voting and we keep talking, and it doesn't matter. You've ignored attorney opinions, you've ignored compromise conversation. At one point, he even said that we had stalled long enough, so they voted. So we've gotten to the point where it's like, just tell us what we're doing, because it doesn't seem to matter. And the voting record shows that.
Well, and he is actually a representative of Rose Township. He's not a citizen at large is supposed to be a neutral person for both communities. And we've recently learned that Peter sits on the ZBA. He was also sat in the meetings with the other two Rose Township Fire Board members, sat with them and spoke to attorney about removing the fire chief.
And
That means
that's actually a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Now,
Absolutely.
I know Diane Scheib-Snyder said in her meeting that they didn't meet together, they met individually, therefore it wasn't an open meetings violation. But it is.
It is.
It's the same as polling. I mean, when you make a statement like that, it almost sounds like we're back in junior high. We didn't talk at the same time, we all talked separately. The point is, you talk to this attorney about removing the chief, the three of you. That means you can come back to this meeting and do whatever you want, because our votes are useless at that point. Those are conversations that shouldn't be had behind closed doors. It shouldn't be up to the NACFA board to direct,
Well, it was,
to run the direction of this board. So tonight, if, I think we all agree, we don't want to make the move to dissolve the board at this point. The question is, what action do we want to take?
I would like to
Microphone.
I'd like to mirror what the fire association did. I think that we don't need to have all resign at this point. If Mr. Stauffer would resign, then I think we would have balance once more. I mean, obviously we have some relationship issues, but I think we can repair some of that. The problems we have had is when he came on and made Rose Township the majority, and it's been a disaster ever since.
And we've had some pretty good people step up and offer to be the
Yeah.
citizen at large. When Peter Stauffer was chosen by the board, in a 2-1 vote, I wasn't there that night, I had emergency with my wife, unfortunately, and he was picked. We had, as one of our options, was Pam Masick. Pam Masick had just moved to Holly Township. She was a Groveland Township clerk for 20 years, and at that time, Groveland was looking at joining the authority. And here's somebody that understood government quite well, that had dealt with her own fire department in Groveland, would have been able to come over here and be a neutral person in that endeavor. I've had people like Chet Coop offer to do it. There have been some other conversations with people where they've stepped up and said, if you need somebody to step in, I would do it. It's not supposed to be Holly versus Rose. The citizen at large is supposed to look at the facts and make a decision best for the community. They can't do that if you stop the conversation. They can't do that if you don't allow people to talk. That's what's gotten us here. That's what's gotten us a fire department that's now unionized. We have to go through those labor talks, more attorney fees. We have spent, in the last 2 years, I think in the neighborhood of $26,000 total in attorney fees. Is that right?
I'm
I
not
know it
really
was
sure.
12,000
Yeah.
for the one investigation.
I think it's 15 this year so
And
far.
15. Yeah, so the attorney fees keep racking up. You know, a few years ago, the township, the fire department wanted to buy a new, was it a new tanker truck? And they were gonna finance through one of the local banks, and the finance cost was gonna be around $25,000. And at that meeting, I tabled it. We didn't have to have the financing right away. I said, can I have a month to look for some alternative financing? And I met with the treasurer in Holly Township. I called Paul Gamka. He didn't want to be involved. We decided to finance this vehicle in-house. We collect the taxes. We make the payment. We can get the payment from the fire department back every 6 months when we make the payment by deducting. And we ended up financing it in-house. We had township money that was sitting in a CD at 1.6% interest. We took that money and instead of renewing the I forget what you call them,
Investment CD.
instead of the CD, instead of renewing it, we made the decision to charge 1.75, which was 2% or 3% less than the bank. And we in-house financed it. Holly Township didn't lose any money by doing that. And we saved the department $11,000. That's money that can go to the capital fund and buy more equipment. But instead, we've wasted and squandered it all on attorney fees.
For
Yeah.
issues that were brought on by Rose Township.
Here's the 26,000. From 2005 to March 2019, attorney costs total $8,196 over 14 years. In the 3 years since Mr. Stauffer came on the board, our attorney fees have been $26,997 and more to come.
Are those split by the two townships?
Well, they
That's
come out of the
what we
budget.
already
They
paid.
come out of the budget. It isn't a bill that comes to us.
Right.
It just means you've got to change your budget and cut because you've got to pay that bill. Now, at the last meeting, interesting that you brought that up, Paul Gamka made a motion. They wanted to send the attorney fees so that the department wouldn't have to cut them. They wanted to send the attorney fees back to the two townships 50-50. But that one went down 3-2 because Diane Scheib-Snyder voted no. So it ended up staying with the department. But those are the issues we've had to deal with. Those are the issues we've been up against. So I heard you say that you'd like to
adopt that same resolution.
adopt the same resolution
And then,
to join the Firefighters Association in their vote of no confidence. Is that-
right, and for
okay.
him to resign. And after that, then I would suggest next would be that we meet with Rose Township Board, and we'll have to discuss it there.
And just so the public knows, that can be done too. The two township boards would meet. We have to hire a mediator in between, but to have those discussions. So we are trying to find ways we can resolve this.
Under Article 18, I guess it is, what would be the real cost to us in Rose Township?
The
If
real
we were-
cost,
If we were to, it says, the proportion of the authority's debts for which the municipality is liable
There
under
are
this
no
discussion
debts.
is determined by dividing the state equalized value of the real property in the municipality by the state equalized value of all real property in the authority.
Yeah, but we don't have any debt.
yeah, we have debt.
Where do we have debt?
The fire hall,
I thought that
The-
was paid.
no, and the tanker, that's a debt.
Oh, okay.
So that would cost Rose more money right now? Or would it still be 50/50?
Well, it's over the 2-year process.
Right, it would
That
just,
have
I
to
think
be
it
worked
goes
out.
on just as it always has, and then you work the process of separation. And then the Holly Township would have to pay for that process.
I was just wondering if,
Well, and the station's in Holly Township, so we would probably pick up that portion of the debt.
is there a way
No,
to,
it's a split debt.
Yeah, oh,
is there a way to withdraw or threaten to withdraw, and that the cost would be more for Rose than it would be for Holly?
It has to be in the Articles of Incorporation. That's what
that's what these are.
drives us. That's the only authority we have.
There is a copy of the Articles of Incorporation. If anybody wants them, they're online,
They're in, yeah, under Code of
under
Ordinances,
Code of Ordinances.
fire prevention.
But I do have a copy of those tonight, so you can get the information to look those up.
I think if the makeup of the board changes, we can move forward and resolve some of these issues. If not, then I think that we can meet with Rose, and if that doesn't work, then we can discuss further on how we're gonna go forward. Because will
But should
cost
we do-
everybody far more money to run
Should
their
we
own.
do that, or just have an attorney send a letter to that effect, saying this is what we're planning on doing, and if you do, it'll cost X for attorney fees or whatever?
I don't know if we could even come up with how much it would cost.
There are some things that could be figured out. The whole picture would be pretty involved.
Okay, well, you wouldn't have to do actual costs, you could just say it'll cost the township's X.
Well, that can be based off
Right.
of what's in the Articles.
Right, right.
Yeah, we could have the attorney send the letter officially to the Rose Township Board.
'Cause it sounds like if you say anything, it's not gonna do any good at all.
Correct.
No.
It's just gonna keep going.
So did you want to put that in the form of a motion? The
Sure.
vote of no confidence.
Yes.
There's your microphone. Good, then do it.
Okay. I would make a motion to adopt a Holly Township resolution, the same as the North Oakland County Fire Association resolution that was read to Holly and Rose Township and the NACFA board.
Is there support?
Wait a minute, you're proposing that we just,
Vote of no confidence and ask Mr. Stauffer to resign.
okay, but you didn't say that in the proposal. You just said read the thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have it with me. I didn't anticipate that. I should have.
No, we can just say,
Just make the motion clear.
yeah,
Right, the vote of no confidence and requesting Peter Stauffer to resign from the North Oakland County Fire Authority Board.
per the request of NACFA. Union.
No, Hollytown, we're joining with the Firefighters Association in their vote of no confidence.
Holly
Okay.
Township.
Holly Township is joining with them.
Okay, thank you.
He just brought the document.
Okay,
And we're asking for Peter Stauffer to resign because, as this board has discussed, we feel that a new citizen at large could change the tempo and get us back on track.
So do you want me to read the resolution into the record, or do you?
but, so the resolution is just our thought, basically, of what,
Yeah, because we can't do anything. I mean, that's,
Right.
we have no
there's
voting power.
There's
no-
not, we don't have any authority to do anything.
right, okay.
We're 2 out of the 5 votes
Right.
on the board. But the Holly Township Board can send a message to the Rose Township Board.
So where it says, yeah, that, you know, that it's the firefighters, it should be from Holly Township.
Right.
So we're adopting the same resolution,
We're adopting
but
this-
we're saying that it's Holly Township.
Now, were there any Rose Township firefighters that were also in the, they're all in the union, right?
All,
They're all,
No,
they are
only
all
the
not
full-time.
firefighters.
all of them, yeah.
Okay.
They're not Holly Township firefighters, they're not Rose, they are not for firefighters. They work for the authority.
Gotcha. Can we ask if there's any people here from Rose Township? Can we ask that?
There's 10 of them from
No.
Rose, 10 firefighters
Citizens?
from Rose.
Yeah.
The question has been asked, are there any citizens here from Rose Township? There you go.
So why aren't you public commenting?
They're waiting to see what we do.
What did you say? He said,
I said, so why aren't you commenting?
Why weren't you in the public comment? Yeah, they're gonna public
fine,
comment
yeah.
after we make a decision.
That doesn't do any good, though,
What?
to have them comment after a decision is made.
Do you want to hear what they have to say?
Yeah.
All right, why don't we do this? Trustee Ruth has asked, would those residents that would like to speak, we'd like to hear what your thoughts are. Rose Township
Anybody.
residents, if you want to voice your opinion, we'd like to hear them.
Because it may end up costing you money.
I'm a Rose Township resident, and the only thing,
You have to start out with your name and address.
sorry, Chad Gilbert, 9999 Fish Lake Road. Really, the only comment I have here is that I agree with what you guys are talking about, and the fact that if you don't have a vote and Rose Township has an advantage, I think that a lot of the room agrees that we don't really trust the Rose Township leadership at this point to make a decision about our fire department. And I agree to ask the gentleman that is skewing things to, resign and move forward with that. I would agree with that. I would hate to see not disbanded, dissolved, etc.
All right,
That's all I
Thank
have
you.
to say.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next. You navigated that quite well.
My name is Sandy Miller, 525 West Davisburg. I'm still not close enough?
Yeah,
Okay, but I'll blow the people right out of here. I agree with what you guys are saying. I'm sorry to say I live in Rose after watching the meetings online. I didn't know any of this was going on. That was a total embarrassment to watch those meetings of their squabbling back and forth. It was like, but what can we as the Rose Township residents do to correct the situation?
All right, can you state your name again for the secretary?
Sandy Miller, 525 West Davisburg.
Thank you. I think some of your other residents had, I heard the solution come from some other folks. So,
Are you setting up a Facebook page that everybody can go in and see? What's it called?
okay, folks, I'm gonna have to, we need this to be on the microphone so people can hear it.
Oh,
And so,
to our board too. Yeah.
yeah, you need to be talking to us.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Miss Miller, let's let Mr. Johnson come up and
okay.
answer your
And
question.
let them know it's not an answer, it's a public comment, not,
It's a public
Yeah.
comment, but in public comment, he can,
We have actually started a website called SaveNakfa.com. And I'm a part of the Tipsco Lake Association. I've been sharing all the meetings with what's been going on with the residents of Tipsco Lake. I know it's also been shared on Friends of Rose Township. So all the movies, all the videos from the NACFA board meetings and the Rose Township board meetings can be viewed there so people can see the actions of our representatives. And quite frankly, it is embarrassing.
Okay, thank you.
Name and address.
what?
oh, name and address.
Well, he was already up, that was Mr. Johnson. Yep, okay. Start with name and address.
James Curran, 840 Rose Center Road, 825 Rose Center Road. Moved out here from Wall Lake area. I sat on the zoning board. I have never witnessed any city council like I did the other night in Rose Township. My family is from the UP. I've sat on their boards. When I lived there, all I can say is it's pretty simple. If you're here in favor from Rose Township, can you please stand or raise a hand if you're in favor of keeping that?
Oh, keeping Knoxville, yeah.
All those opposed?
None.
I think I've said enough.
My name is Lynn Terwin. I am also from 825 and 840 West Rose Center Road. First of all, I would like to applaud you guys on your, I have no words, your professionalism, your letting people talk, not sitting up there and scribbling on papers and totally ignoring the firemen when they were talking last week. These guys, my children will probably say, "Oh my God, Mom, sit down and be quiet. You're babbling again." But I just remember going back to 9/11 and being at my office with my office manager and watching the buildings come down and her saying, "I hope they are running out." And I said, "No, they are running in. They do not quit. It's never a last person standing. So please, please do not dissolve NAFTA." I moved out here for the country living, for the non-judgmental, the bickering from a larger city. And applaud these guys for what they do. Don't take it away.
No.
Hello, I'm Pat Klenner, 4294 North Hill Drive, Holly, technically Rose Township. My biggest question and biggest concern with all of that has been going on is not keeping the board. We're going to keep the NAFCA board. My question is, how many other private meetings have gone on that we do not know about? And if you really truly want to find out where that, when and where those are happening, just follow the money.
Yeah.
Good evening. John Ribsky from 8005 Tipsico Trail in Holly, Rose Township. And I don't
If you wanna pick
understand,
that up, you're a pretty tall guy.
I don't understand the politics behind all this, but what I do understand is disaster restoration. I've been supporting the first responders for over 40 years. And I can tell you that seconds count and minutes matter in a disaster. And it's a life-saving and property-saving issue to be able to resolve this. I respect you for what you're doing, and I'm going to ask that the Rose Township Board do the same and act professionally and resolve this for the lives of the citizens of both communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Don Spees. I live at 7822 Rosemar Drive in Holly, Rose Township. Echo what all these people say. I am embarrassed for our behavior of our township officials on the board. I just found out about all this last week, and I've watched 12, 14 hours of board meetings since then, and it's embarrassing. There's no other way to put it. I'd ask that you guys hold off making any decisions. I think there's a lot of people that were like me that were just fine and, living their lives. Dan posted something on the Tipsco Lake page, and I was like, didn't have anything to do, and I started watching, and it was about 3 minutes. I was just like, oh my God, what a mess. So it triggered me to get involved. I think there's a lot of other people like me. When we start getting, signs out in the yards that say Save Our Fire Department, a lot of people will be like, what are they talking about, Save Our Fire Department? So I think you'll start seeing a lot more people paying attention to what's going on. So hopefully, we can put some pressure on it and just get this thing sorted out and moving in the right direction. But I applaud you guys. You guys got some patience. I would probably punch somebody in the throat for some of the stuff you guys have done.
Thank you.
Joe DeRocher, 1301 West Rose Center Road, Holly, Michigan. In the 16 years that I've been out here, started out living in Rose on Tipsco Lake and made my way into Holly Township. I've since lived in Holly Township twice and 3 different houses in Rose Township. In that amount of time, I have seen and been to a lot of board meetings. However, I do not see a large turnout unless there's a hot topic. And unfortunately, we all know that that's a common trend with most municipalities. If there was a problem with the fire chief, then why hasn't it come out in the early years when he had to figure out how to run the department and fine-tune things? Right now, the department is at a place, the best place it's been in the 15 years that I've been here. The problem is clearly with the Rose Township Board, and the residents of Rose Township need to recognize there's a history and there's a pattern behavior, and everybody needs to get out, tell your neighbors, watch the meetings, and hold them accountable.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Minter. I live at 1455 East Bradley Lake Road. Myself and my family moved into Rose Township about 14 years ago now. We actually lived at 10023 Fish Lake Road for the last 13 years. And the reason that we came to this area was because of how, what we heard about it, the community, the support. We wanted privacy. We started off at 5 acres. We now have 46. I am invested. I'm in my forever home right now. And I want the fire department here. I do not want anything to happen with them. The chief is wonderful. Everyone that I know on the fire department, all quality people, and they deserve to be listened to. They deserve to have support, and they deserve to be treated fairly. This is ridiculous. Rose Township is embarrassing. I am disgusted with their behavior, and I am tired of it. And the education of the residents of the township is imperative to make anything happen. I'm at a loss for words. It is disgusting, and every meeting I'm at only continues to get worse. I thank you very much for your professionalism, your respect to your positions, and the people that put you in them. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Commissioner Bob Hoffman.
Thank you. I'm Bob Hoffman, Oakland County Commissioner, 2521 Rose Center Road in Highland. If you're in my living room, you're in Rose Township. I also have property in Holly, and I'm the chairman of the Holly DDA. I'm here to support Chief Jeremy Lintz and the firefighters in both Rose and Holly Township. I think it's premature right now to even consider withdrawing from NACFA. And, united we're strong, and we should remain that way. We should negotiate harder, but I think we can find a resolution to this short of doing anything that hurts the residents of either Holly or Rose Townships. Thank you.
I saw a hand way in the back. Come on up. No?
I think so.
My name is Greg Allen. I've lived in the township of Rose for 21 years. I've been on a NACFA for 11 and a half years. I I've been in public service for 37 years. Started as a cadet in Walled Lake. Was on the Walled Lake Fire Department before going public safety. So I've worked in urban, suburban, and rural fire departments. And this department, for the last 11 and a half years that I worked for it, is second to none. I mean, for the amount of service you get for the taxes you pay is incredible. I mean, this department has come a long way since I've been here, and it's only going to go further in the future. So to disband now after 38 plus years would be a shame. You know, it hurt both townships, and we would all feel the effects. So I just ask you, especially Ms. Winchester and Mr. Cullis, I apologize for what you've had to put up with this last few years, because a lot of good has come out of it up until now. So hopefully you guys can hold strong and Holly Township can back us. Thank you.
Gary Young, 867 Deer Valley Road, Holly Township. I'm not normally a person that comes and speaks much, but I think it's important. From what I'm getting out of this, I talked to a fireman earlier today that I had no idea who he was. He offered to give me some information, and because I had none until just recently, much like everyone else. It appears to me that the no contest vote is a good start, possibly. But like you said, there's no power. What is it going to do? The only thing that I can see coming out of this, because the three people are going to continue doing what they do until they're forced to do something differently, is to, in a couple months, vote to resolve it, or you step down. And unfortunately, that's what I feel is going to happen. And at what point do you make that decision or not? But you have to be prepared to make it. And that's not easy, I'm sure, to be sitting in your shoes.
No, it's not.
So for that, I would applaud you. And I applaud the first responders that have been doing it and continue to do it with all the politics in place. One last thing is, with no, I guess, what's the word, with no future in place that is guaranteed for these firefighters, firewomen, EMTs, how many are we going to lose to other jobs because they don't know if they'll be here in 2 years? How many people are going to move, have to relocate? Something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is, I'm going to take this up. I can't take this. My name is Brian Abisham, 2430 Grange Hall Road. I'm the proprietor at Holly Lanes Bowling Center. I've embedded myself in this community for the past 10 years, and I've spent money in this community, invested in my community because of everybody in my community. What I've seen in the last 2 weeks is disgusting. It makes me pissed off that I pay taxes. It makes me hurtful that 3 people can literally hold hostage all of the people that support and take care of us. What I like to know is if someone, including my own children who work in my center with me, are in danger. 99% of the people in this township have been in my business. These guys and girls know, hey, if I tell you, come to lane 26 because Ed's bleeding out, they know where to go. How dare these 3 people take their own personal vendetta against us as a community? We're the voice. You guys are the tip of the sword. I can guarantee you every single person in this room has your back. We will do anything you need us to do to help you resolve this. If it comes down to the point where the 3 of you or 4 of you say, hey, you know what, we're going to step down so we can fix this, I applaud you. Every single person in this room applauds you, and they stand behind you. Because if you guys can't, or you guys are stuck, we're going to get real loud, legally. We're not going to go, it's not opinions, it's not Facebook posts. This is facts. This is factual information. These people are putting us in danger because they don't like someone. It is not acceptable to me as a business owner, as a father, as a member of this community. I continue to pump money into this community because I believe in it. I love it. Every single person in this room has taken time out of their day to do that. We applaud you. I applaud every single person in this room. We are behind you 100%. I even put on my sign today, we support Norfolk, because we do. We have to do whatever we can to make sure these people understand they're not welcome if their vendetta is personal. If they want to do their job and your job is tough and they want to do it like adults, great. Do their job as adults. We'll support that. We might not like the decisions they make, and George, you've said that before. You don't get everything your way, but if you can't even let the firefighters speak, you don't deserve to be in that position. And I'm telling you, everybody right now, because I'm neutral. I lived in Holly. I own property in Holly, so I pay taxes to the township. So I know what my fire bill costs. I'll step up because I'm neutral. Period. I will do whatever I have to do. I always have. Every single person in this room will. We support you. I support everybody in this community. They got to go. Period.
Thank you.
Grab the mic.
I live at 17346 Timber Creek
There you go.
in Rose
Sarah.
Township. I don't like speaking publicly when I don't know all the facts. I just found out about this through the paper tonight. The one comment I would make is there's no one more professional than Jeremy Lentz. And whatever I can do to support him and the fire department, I'm here. So feel free to contact me anytime.
Thank you.
Sir? The last person that spoke, I didn't get his name. I want you to take that with you. That's a timeline of what's been going on. You can update yourself. Now, if you'd grab that mic and start out with your name, sir.
Good idea. Most of you know me. My name is Randy Finkbeiner. I'm Catalina Way in Holly Township. We have a lot of representation today from Rose Township in this meeting, and it's considering their fire department also. It's all of our fire department. As everybody here can see, I'm part of the fire department. I just got off shift at 6 o'clock tonight from protecting, and my service station today was Rose Township at 280 West Rose Center Road. Any call that come out, I was going to be there. You guys are in a hard spot here. And right now, everybody in this room is supporting this board and what you need to do. They are voicing opinions of supporting the Fire Authority Board and what they need to do. Who they're not supporting is 5 individuals. 4 of them sit on the Rose Township Board of Trustees and their governing board, the other one being the citizen at large. We all know that that's a big problem. So you've got 5 people holding 6,000 or 7,000 people hostage. We can't let that happen. Dissolving the fire authority, in my opinion, is not the way to go. I think there are other avenues that we can do. We are getting the citizens involved. We are starting to get voices out there. We're getting polling out there. We're getting knowledge out there. And anybody can stop into our stations at any time. We're always there unless we're on a call. They're always open to every resident that wants to come in. There's not one firefighter that will tell you you can't come in today. You can come in, you can ask questions, you can look around, you can see the equipment, you can see what may come and save your life, what may come and save your child's life. So we need to do everything we can to resolve this. We have to somehow convince the Rose Township Board of just how misguided they are at this time. They are so far off base. They don't even know where they're at. They're floundering. Even their own people don't support them. And how can they do that? They can't do that. So this board has everybody in this audience support, except for maybe one or two. And I think you have the community support. You certainly have the fire department support. And it's not just because we work there. A lot of us has lived here. I'm a Holly Township resident now. I'm a former Rose Township resident. I still have a son that lives in Rose Township. His mother, we had to run on her. She was in our ambulance. We have family in Rose Township also. So I don't want them to have some other non-service because they broke away. And I don't want to have to not go because we don't cover them anymore. So do what you can do. The citizens are going to do what we can do. The fire department will certainly do what we can do, legally, of course, without getting in any trouble, because we don't want to step over lines, but we want to save it for the community. Thank you. I'm sorry, I have one more very, very important thing. With the actions of the representatives on the Fire Authority Board from Rose Township, if they should call a vote to terminate the chief based on previous conversations that they've had in secret that they've denied, but it's on tape, if they should do that and that passes, and our chief is then relieved of his duties, it could be as early as tomorrow, it might be next month. What's the plan? Where's the backup plan? What are we going to do? What are we going to do the minute after that happens? What are we going to do the next day after that happens? Who steps in? Who runs the place? How do you know if the chief goes, there won't be 35 other people go with him? We don't know that. We cannot let that happen. Under no circumstances can that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
You hear me?
Yeah, just pick it up.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for such a professional meeting. It's so refreshing. My name is Debbie Miller. I'm the clerk from Rose Township. Yay! I spoke about a taxing authority last meeting and the meeting before, and I thought this would be a great thing. Karen Winchester has also brought it up. So my solution is have a taxing authority, have Mr. Stouffer resign, because this is the whole problem for the last 2 to 3 years. There was never a problem before, there is now, and he's obviously the issue. So that is my suggestion to all of you. Thank you very much for doing this evening. I look forward to your meeting tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, rather. Please don't shoot me, okay? Don't remove me, please. Don't recall me. Anyways, thank you very much. Thanks for letting me talk.
Hi, I'm Melissa Borden, 1301 West Rose Center. I want to touch on a couple of things that I've heard tonight. One thing that my partner back there talked about, and that's the township meetings, how most people don't attend them. Things go unnoticed until there's a hot topic. Well, unfortunately, myself and my organization was a very hot topic for Rose Township. But the good thing that came out of that is we were able to bring awareness and understand what has been going on in Rose Township, which we've brought a couple hundred people, volunteers that have, live in Holly Township, live in Rose Township, that now understand what's going on. And I'm also going to echo what was said over here and to ask you guys to give us residents of Rose Township, now that do know what's going on in our educated time, to educate our fellow residents. I also, like I said, my partner back there, he is a firefighter and a paramedic for NACFA, so I see the other side of it. I see the calls that he goes on, I hear the calls that go out, and I know a lot of his coworkers personally now, and these guys, these men and women are amazing, and we can't afford to not have them. So hopefully now, as residents, we can get out there and we can educate everybody else and hopefully bring some change to a very unprofessional board. I thank you guys for being very professional, for interacting with everybody as they're speaking. That's something that should be so simple and just common courtesy, but it's lacking on our Rose Township board. So thank you guys very much.
Sure.
Just a quick question. I'm Joel Idoni, I spoke earlier. Is there a legal requirement for Rose Township to notify residents of their decision on this when it pertains to services provided and agreed upon contractually between the two townships?
No,
I don't think so.
not that I know of.
Can we check with legal? There has to be a contract between the two townships.
We're formed under the Articles of
I mean, we don't make
Incorporation.
agreements that are millions of
No,
dollars over the life.
Not done well.
That's explained here. It's Article 57. Chief Lentz, you asked if I was going to call on you. Here's your opportunity.
No, I just think it's crazy that people are making a decision like this without every resident of Rose Township impacted by the decision, not being notified. I think that's nutso.
To answer you, if you go to Section 1 of Act 57, that will tell you how the authority was created. Just if you want to explain the authority, if I hadn't done it, if you can do a better job of what I did. He was asking how the authority was formed.
And whether there was any requirement.
You say
to
explain how the
No,
authority is
there's
formed?
no
or-
requirements.
Yeah, I know.
Is this a wireless mic?
Yes,
Can I-
you just
can
pick
I-
it up.
Can I just kind of spin like this? Just like my back turned on everybody, so.
And then hold the mic.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
All right. So, Jeremy Lentz, 17366 Timber Creek. I am a Rose Township resident, but I am also your fire chief. And actually, before I get into that, this is pretty nostalgic because I used to have lunch here. Do you guys remember the hot ham and cheese sandwiches? We'd take the tops off and the gooey cheese and stick them and see who could stick to the windows right here. But those were the days. Anyways, so the fire authority is under a Michigan legal ruling it's called Act 57 that was established in 1986, I believe. It gave an ultimatum or an option for multiple municipalities to come together and provide emergency services to those districts. You guys have all heard the term fire district before. That's a big term you see out west a lot, and there's also fire districts in here. But it's under the same sort of situation. It's just a law that is through the state of Michigan with articles, base articles that are followed, that allows those municipalities to come together to form an authority to provide emergency services. And how that's financed, there's a couple of caveats. You can finance it how it's financed now, where it's pretty much equal amounts of our budget, cut in half every year. One township pays half, the other township pays the other half. Or what I'm finding out, the more and more I dig into it, is you can be a taxing authority under a fire authority, which is, as I believe Mr. Cullis mentioned earlier, a school district. The fire authority serves the residents of Rose Township and Holly Township with the same level of service across the board, no matter if you live down by Rose Pioneer or you live up on Kurtz and Gage Road. You guys are all getting the same level of service for a medical, for a house fire, for a tree falling in the road. You're getting the same people, the same equipment, the same response time. So a taxing authority in that aspect is an option under a fire authority to do. The taxing authority, which would be the entity of the fire department, takes over the taxing. It doesn't go through the townships anymore. The citizens vote on that if that's something they choose to do, and from that point on, the townships kind of are out of it at that point. They still have control over their fire department to an extent because they're still the two municipalities that are enlisted in the fire authority. But as far as how the finances come in, the revenues for the fire department, it comes directly from you. There's no middleman, if you will. Back to my point about the fire authority, there's not a contractual agreement, if you will, between the two townships. The Act 57 is the agreement itself. It's a state law that both municipalities signed into and drew up articles of incorporation governing the rules that are base rules. Believe me, after this showcase the last 3 years, we need to go back and redraft them and put some more robust language in there. But for the most part, once they're filed with the Secretary of State and signed, which they were back then, filed with the Secretary of State, you then become a legal authority under the state of Michigan. We're, in essence, our own local government. However, the participants of that local government are two other municipalities. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how it works. There's lots of boring stuff that I could tell you about it, and it could go, on for an hour here talking about it. But that's the essence of a fire authority. Its whole concept is to save money because you're not duplicating services. You're not paying two fire chiefs. You're not paying for two different air systems that we have to use to fill our bottles. You're not paying for two payroll companies. You're not, everything that you look at in a typical business that you would need, from software programs to the bookkeeping to getting audited every year. All those items cost money, but because we are combined, we only have to pay those costs at a time compared to if you had separate entities. If you had a Rose Township Fire Department, a Holly Township Fire Department, you'd be paying duplicate on that, which costs a lot of money, believe it or not. I added it up one time in my head, and you're probably looking at, if you were to, and I don't want to steer anybody wrong in this is just in theory. If you were to have separate departments, just in the duplicated services alone that the fire authority saves, you'd probably be upwards of $300,000. That's just, again, the big stuff, the big ticket items that you see. There's a million things that I can come up with that we save money on because we are one authority. So, did that explain kind of the nutshell of what the authority does? And
No, I think it did. Thank
okay.
you.
While I'm up here, I would like to thank everybody for coming out here. This is a very important topic. I'm very glad that the public is getting involved because from my view, my opinion, at the point that we're in right now, this is our last ditch effort, is to get the public involved and go to their elected officials and tell them they don't like what's happening, it's got to change, do something about it. Because we've come from all sides on this for 2 years. Holly Township has tried diplomatic solutions. The firefighters themselves have come most recently to try a diplomatic solution. Although I have to be cautious of what I say, but I have come out several times and made my cases to the board and what's going on, and it's got to stop. It's not doing anything. So this is the time for you guys, the general public, the people that put those people in those positions. Do your homework, know what's going on,